She asked me for money on day 5. Grandmother in the hospital. That was the sign. I told myself it was an emergency, that she had nowhere else to turn. $18,000. That is what emergency cost me. She said I was the only one she trusted, the only man who understood her heart. I believed her. God help me, I believed every word. I came to Cebu to disappear. My wife of 32 years was buried on a Tuesday, and by Thursday I was booking flights. Not a vacation, an escape. The grocery store was 3 blocks from my rented room. Robinson's. Air-conditioned, fluorescent lights, the same brands as back home. Familiar, safe. She found me in the canned goods aisle. I was holding a tin of Spam, staring at the label. "You look lost," she said. Not an accusation, an invitation. I told her what I needed. She walked me to the correct shelf, then laughed. Said her grandmother used to cook Spam the same way, fried, with rice. We talked for 40 minutes in the coffee shop. She told me she was from a town in the mountains, a provinciana. She worked nights at a call center, taking insurance claims from Americans. Her name was Elena. She was 34. She had this way of listening that made you feel like the only person in the room. After coffee, she asked if I wanted to walk by the water. I said yes. I had been in Cebu for 11 days, had spoken to maybe 3 people who weren't trying to sell me something. And here was this woman, no agenda. At least that's what I told myself. She shared a story that first afternoon about her grandmother, sick in a clinic back in the province, the kind that runs on prayer and borrowed oxygen. Her voice didn't break, she just went quiet. I recognized that grief, the quiet kind that lives in your chest. She never asked me for money that day. I gave her my number because she mentioned she could find a good mechanic for my bike. That was it, a mechanic. 2 days later, my phone rang at 6 a.m. It was her, crying. "My grandmother is worse. They say she needs surgery. I don't know what to do." I asked her what she needed. She said 5,000 pesos, just to get her through the week. I transferred it before noon. She sent me a photo of her grandmother in the hospital bed. Gray hair, closed eyes, an IV in her hand. That evening, I met Roberto at the hotel bar. He'd been in Cebu for 9 years, old expat, sun-leathered face. He asked how I was settling in. I told him about Elena. He took a long drink. Then he said, "Be careful of the ones who arrive with sad stories already loaded, like they've rehearsed the script." I laughed, told him she wasn't like that. He shrugged and bought me a beer. I should have listened. But Roberto was talking to a man who had just lost everything. I wasn't looking for warnings, I was looking for a reason to stay. Elena started coming to my room every evening, bringing food, sitting with me. She learned my wife used to make beef stew, and the next week she brought me a pot of her own. Different recipe, but the gesture mattered. She met my neighbors, waved to the security guard. She made herself part of my life so gradually I didn't notice. 2 weeks after the first request, she came to me crying again. Her mother's voice in the background of a phone call, speaking in Bisaya. I couldn't understand the words, but I understood the tone. "The surgery deposit is 15,000, she said. "If I don't get it this week, they will send my grandmother home to die." I sent it, same day. She hugged me after, held on longer, told me I was the only person who understood what it meant to carry burdens alone. That night I sat on my bed and looked at the receipts on my phone. 20,000 pesos in 3 weeks. I told myself it was temporary, that this was what you did for someone you cared about. But there was a moment, one moment I keep coming back to. She had shown me photos of her workplace, but when I mentioned passing by to bring her lunch, she changed the subject. Said the building didn't allow visitors, said her shift ended late. I should have walked away right there. But I told myself, not everyone wanted their work life mixed with their personal life. I wanted to believe her. I believed every word. The money kept going out. It was always something small at first. A bus fare, medicine, rice for her cousin's family. Roberto noticed I looked tired one morning, asked if I was sleeping okay. I said fine. He didn't push. But he looked at me the way you look at a man walking toward a cliff edge, hoping he'll turn around. I kept walking. 3 months into the relationship, Elena said she wanted me to meet someone important, her cousin, a judge. We met at a restaurant near Cologne Street, air-conditioned, vinyl booths, the kind of place that catered to expats with pesos to spend. The judge was older than Elena. Late 50s, silver hair, round glasses. He wore a pressed polo and spoke English without an accent. He called me sir. Elena sat close to me. She kept her hand on my forearm like she wanted to show him something, like she was presenting evidence. The judge told me about his career, 20 years in barangay courts. He said the system was broken, said he wanted to build something legitimate, a hardware store in Mandao, sell construction materials to contractors. He had the land, had the permits, but he was short on capital. Said the bank wanted collateral he couldn't provide. Elena looked at me when he said this. She didn't say a word. She didn't have to. The judge explained the numbers. 200,000 pesos to start. Inventory, licenses, a small delivery truck. He said within a year, I'd see returns. Elena told me this was family. She said family takes care of family. She said I was family now. I transferred the money the next day. The judge sent photos of the storefront. Empty shelves, concrete floor, a sign above the door, still in plastic wrap. 2 weeks later, Elena said her grandmother needed emergency surgery. The hospital wanted payment up front. She said the judge couldn't help because he was too close to it. I sent 40,000 pesos, then 20 more for medicine, then 15 for a specialist in Manila. The judge called me personally that time. He thanked me. He said my generosity would not be forgotten. He said Elena was lucky to have found me. I told myself this was normal. I told myself families in the Philippines carried each other through crises. I told myself I was part of something. There was a moment, early on, where the judge mentioned the Montero Sport parked outside his office, said Elena's mother had just bought it, said she finally had something to show for 30 years of work. I remember thinking that was strange. Elena's mother worked in a factory, seamstress work. I had met her. She wore the same dress to church every Sunday. I didn't push the thought. I let it go. By the end of the 3rd month, I had sent 600,000 pesos total. The hardware store was supposedly open. The judge said business was good. He sent me inventory photos I couldn't verify. Elena started canceling our dates, said her mother was sick, then her cousin, then the grandmother again, different complication this time. When I asked about the investment paperwork, she exploded. She said I didn't trust her. She said real family doesn't ask for receipts. She said I was treating her like a stranger. I apologized. I didn't want to lose her. She came over one night after 3 weeks of silence. She looked different, tired, cold. She sat on my couch and said her mother needed a hospital bed, said it would cost 60,000 pesos. I told her I needed to think. She stood up. She walked to the window. She looked out at the street below. I watched her from behind. Outside, in the parking lot, I saw a silver Montero Sport, brand new. I had never seen her drive it to my apartment before. She turned around and caught me looking. Her face changed. Just for a second. Something closed off behind her eyes. I said the money would be in her account by morning. She nodded. She left without touching me. I sat in that apartment for a long time that night. I thought about the photos the judge sent. I thought about the grandmother who never seemed to die, never seemed to fully recover. I thought about a seamstress who could afford a Montero Sport. Something was wrong. I could feel it the way you feel a storm before the first drop of rain. But I still didn't understand. Not yet. The summons came on a Wednesday. Manila envelope, official stamps. The name was Judge Morales. I sat at my kitchen table and read it 3 times. The words didn't make sense. Violence against women and children. A complaint filed by Elena Alara. A hearing set for the following month. She claimed I assaulted her. Black eye, bruised arms, threats made over the phone. None of it happened. I called Ricardo, the lawyer Elena's friend had recommended. I told him what was in the letter. He was quiet. Then he explained. Mediation first. If that failed, a hearing, evidence presented, witnesses called. He asked if I had ever raised a hand to her. I told him no, I had never touched her. He said good. Then he asked if I had ever sent her money. I didn't answer. Ricardo said in these cases, money could be used against me. Judges sometimes saw financial dependence as control. I told him I wasn't controlling anything. I was being taken for a ride. He said he understood. He would represent me. That night I couldn't sleep. I replayed every conversation, the grandmother's hospital bills, the burial costs, the money for her cousin's business. I thought about how I had sent it without question, without verification, with only her word and my loneliness. I had been so desperate to believe someone wanted me that I never asked if she was telling the truth. The hearing was at the regional trial court. I drove there that morning. I sat in my car and watched people go in. Lawyers in pressed shirts, complainants with families. I was neither. I was just an old man who had made an expensive mistake. I walked through the doors and saw them. Elena, sitting in the hallway outside courtroom 3, and standing next to her, robe on, gavel in hand, was Judge Morales. They were talking like family, close, comfortable. She touched his arm. He leaned in to answer. I stood and watched. My stomach dropped. I walked back to my car. I sat with the door open and breathed. The heat was thick, but I didn't care. I couldn't go in there. Not with her cousin on the bench. Not with whatever game they had planned. I called Ricardo. He didn't answer. I called again. When he finally picked up, I told him what I had seen. He was quiet. Then he said what I already knew. Conflict of interest. The case should be transferred. But the system was slow. Papers got lost. Requests denied. He told me to attend anyway, document everything, keep my head down. I drove home with my hands shaking on the wheel. That night, I made a decision. I opened my laptop and started going through everything. Every message, every transfer, every claim she had ever told me. I printed the bank records. I printed the screenshots. I made copies and stored them in a folder on my desktop, in a cloud account, and on a USB drive I kept in my sock drawer. I started with the hardware store investment, the $12,000 I had sent to her cousin's business. I pulled up the business registration documents she had sent me, the PDF with the company name and address and registration number. I searched for that registration number on the Philippine Securities and Exchange Commission website. It was public record. Anyone could look it up. I typed in the number, hit enter, watched the page load. The business was registered to Elena Alara, not her cousin. Elena herself was listed as sole proprietor. I stared at the screen. I went back through the documents she had sent me, the ones with the cousin's name, the ones with the business plan and projected profits. They were fabricated, all of them. She had invented a cousin to make the investment seem legitimate, but that wasn't what stopped me. I looked at the contact information on the SEC filing, the phone number listed for the business. I recognized it. It was Elena's personal number, the same number I had saved in my phone since our first week. She had given me her own number, the number attached to the business I thought I was investing in to help her family. The business that was hers all along. I sat in the blue light of my laptop and understood. She had never needed my money for a cousin's store. She had needed it for her own business, and she had used me to fund it. The grandmother's medicine, the burial costs, the hospital bills. None of it had been about helping anyone. It had been about building a business while I paid for it. I closed the laptop. I sat in the dark. I did not sleep. I sat on the bed and looked at my phone. My finger hovered over a number saved months ago. A private investigator recommended by a forum member. I had dismissed him. I did not want to believe I needed that. At 5 in the morning, I called. His name was Miguel. He had a quiet voice and an office in Mabolo. He asked what I needed. I told him everything. The grandmother, the burial, the hardware store, the VAWC complaint. There was a long pause. He said he had heard this story before. We met the next afternoon. I gave him everything: bank statements, wire transfers, screenshots, the photos she had sent. He looked through the documents without expression. Then he asked a question that stopped me cold. He asked if I had ever seen her with other men. I told him no. We were always careful. She said it was our secret. He just nodded. 3 days later, Miguel called. He told me to come to his office. He had something I needed to see. I drove through Cebu City. The traffic was heavy. The vendors shouted. Life moved on like nothing had happened. In his office, Miguel had a thick folder on his desk. He told me to sit. Then he opened it. The first page was a Barangay record. Elena had filed a VAWC complaint 4 years ago against an American named David. The same pattern, the same grandmother story, the same hardware store. Judge Morales had approved it. The same judge who approved her complaint against me. I felt the room tilt. Miguel turned the page. Another record from 3 years earlier. A Canadian man named Robert. The same allegations. The grandmother's illness was identical. Then another. 2 years before that, a British man named Alan. 3 foreign men, 3 cases. All settled financially before they could contest. I looked at Miguel. His expression was not pity, something worse, understanding. He slid another document across the desk, a photograph. Elena and another man at a restaurant in Mawalbawal. The timestamp said March 15th, the week she said she was with her sick cousin. We had been exclusive for 2 months. I flipped to the next photo. Elena and a different man at Magellan Shrine. The date read November 8th, 3 weeks after she first said she loved me. There were more. A dozen photos, different men, different dates, all during our private relationship. I closed my eyes. I remembered the night she told me I was the only man she trusted, the way she held my hand, the way she looked at me. I wanted to laugh. I wanted to scream. Instead, I just sat. Miguel said there was one more thing. He handed me a report. Elena's cousin. The same man I was to invest $12,000 with. The report showed financial arrangements across the 3 previous cases. The cousin received setup fees, equipment purchases, inventory advances. Each time, the money went to the same business address. The same address Elena gave me for the hardware store. I read the address again. I knew that street. I had driven past it a dozen times. Roberto came that evening. He stood in my doorway and said he was sorry. He said he had tried to warn me. I told him it was not his fault. I should have listened when he said Elena was not what she seemed. He said Elena's uncle was a barangay captain in Liloan. That was how Judge Morales knew her. That was how the system worked. I thanked him. He left. I sat in my apartment with the evidence spread across my table. Bank statements, wire transfers, screenshots, photos, the report. I had paid for everything twice. The medicine, the burial, the hospital bills, and the $12,000 for a store that never existed. $12,000 I was ready to send. $12,000 I never sent because she filed the complaint first. I thought about if I had sent it. I would have lost that money too. I would have lost everything. I picked up the first photo. Elena and a man I did not recognize at a beach resort. The date was 2 weeks after we met. I set it down. I picked up the next. She was smiling in every one. Not the smile she gave me when asking for money. A different smile. Lighter. Freer. I realized I had never seen that smile. I had only seen the performance. I gathered all the documents. I placed them in a folder. I labeled it with today's date. I did not know what I would do with them yet, but I knew I could not ignore them. For the first time since she walked into my life, I had proof. The city prosecutor's office smelled like floor wax and cold coffee. Behind the desk sat a woman in her 50s with reading glasses pushed up on her forehead. I placed the folder on her desk. I told her I was the respondent in a VAWC case. I told her I had evidence of coordination between the petitioner and the hearing officer. I did not embellish. I did not argue. I laid it out plain. She opened the folder. She turned the pages slowly. She looked at the bank transfers. She looked at the photographs. She looked at the investigator's report I had paid for out of my own pocket. She removed her glasses. She asked me to repeat what I had said about Judge Morales. I told her the judge assigned to my case was Elena's uncle, her mother's brother. The investigator had documented it in the 3rd page of the report. She picked up the phone. She made a call to someone whose name I did not catch. She spoke in rapid Cebuano that I could not follow. When she hung up, she looked at me and said the venue would be changed. She said the case would be heard in a different court with a different judge. She said the original assignment showed clear evidence of bias. I sat in that plastic chair and felt something I had not felt in months. The ground was not entirely rotten. The system had rusted parts, but it still moved. 3 weeks later, my lawyer filed a motion. He attached the financial trail. He attached the investigator's report. He attached the documentation showing Judge Morales's familial connection to Elena's family. He argued that the VAWC complaint was filed not in good faith, but as a tool of coercion. He argued that the money I had sent was evidence of a relationship gone sour, not evidence of abuse. The case collapsed. Not in a single dramatic moment, but in slow increments. First, the prosecutor dropped the criminal aspects. Then, the civil case lost its foundation. I lost $12,000. I lost the time. I lost the sleep. I lost the belief that I had found something real. I gained my freedom. I gained my name back. I gained the ability to leave my apartment without looking over my shoulder. I stood before the expat community meeting in Cologne Street. I told them my story. I did not use notes. I did not soften the details. I told them about the grandmother who was never sick. I told them about the cousin's store that never opened. I told them about Judge Morales and the uncle who sat in that courtroom and looked at me like I was already guilty. I told them the signs were always there. I told them I chose not to see them. A man in the back raised his hand. He asked how he could protect himself. I told him the refused video calls, the pension questions on day 2, the cousin who was always watching. Every sign was there. I just did not want to see them. I told him to verify everything, every story, every emergency, every sad tale that pulled at his heart and emptied his wallet. Elena found me one morning outside the grocery on Mango Avenue. She was crying. She said she made a mistake. She said she still loved me. I looked at her face. I looked at the tears. I could not tell anymore what was real. I walked away. I did not argue. I did not accuse. I simply walked. That evening, I sat at a beachfront restaurant on the waterfront. Roberto joined me. We ordered coffee. We watched the sun drop into the sea. He did not say much, neither did I. The silence was enough. Loneliness makes us stupid, but awareness keeps us alive. Now I knew what it was. I walked back to my hotel. The ocean didn't care. She asked for money in week 1. Grandmother's emergency. She said other expats didn't understand us. Called me the only man she trusted. I should have run. I stayed anyway. That was my mistake. Learn from it. Do not let this happen to you. I compiled every red flag I missed into a checklist. Every sign from this story and 49 others. Download the Expat Due Diligence Protocol. Link is in the description. It is $7. I lost 40,000. You do the math. The characters, incidents, and dialogue in this video are dramatized for narrative and entertainment effect. While some events may be inspired by real-life themes, this story is a work of fiction.